Okay, today we begin with a simple question. In a world that never stops moving, when was the last time you truly stopped? When you weren't scrolling, rushing, or reacting, but simply being? Our lives have become a constant stream of noise, notifications, deadlines, opinions, and somewhere in that blur we've lost the quiet space within ourselves. Yet what if true strength doesn't come from doing more, but from being still? Welcome to Stoic Dhamma, where ancient wisdom meets modern life. Here, we explore the timeless lessons of Stoic philosophy, ideas born in the chaos of empires yet still guiding us through the storms of modern existence. Each reflection is an invitation to pause, to breathe, and to rediscover your own center. Today we'll explore how to find inner peace through daily stillness and mindful practice, inspired by the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus, a journey towards self-mastery, reflection, and enduring calm. In every era, humanity has faced chaos or wars, uncertainty, endless noise. Yet beneath the waves of change, one truth remains unshaken: peace begins within. For the Stoics, stillness was not a retreat from life, but a way of meeting it fully. It was not about building walls against the world, but opening the eyes to see it clearly, without distortion, without panic, without haste. From the marble courtyards of ancient Athens to the digital glow of our modern screens, the same storm rages: distraction, fear, desire, and the hunger for control. We strive to manage everything outside of us, yet we rarely look inward, the only place where mastery truly resides. The Stoics understood this paradox centuries ago. They taught that clarity is born not from noise, but from quiet, not from motion, but from stillness. Imagine Marcus Aurelius, the emperor of Rome, surrounded by the clamor of politics and war, yet writing each night to himself, reminding his soul to remain calm, to act justly, to see things as they are. His journal was not meant for the world. It was his own dialogue with stillness. Each word was a way to return home to the present moment, to the quiet truth that nothing external could ever disturb what was steady within. Stillness, for the Stoics, was not an escape. It was an act of courage. To be still was to stand face to face with reality, to see clearly without the fog of emotion or the weight of judgment. It was not about being indifferent. It was about seeing things without distortion, understanding that peace is not the absence of difficulty, but the mastery of response. And so the question arises: what makes an idea like this endure for over 2,000 years? Why, in a world of endless progress and technology, do we still find ourselves drawn back to ancient wisdom? Perhaps it is because our challenges have changed in form, but not in essence. The human mind still wrestles with anxiety, comparison, and the need for validation. The Stoics simply recognized this truth earlier and offered a way through it. Think about your own days. How many moments are filled with reaction rather than reflection? How often do we reach for the phone, the distraction, the noise, anything to avoid being alone with our thoughts? The Stoic practice of stillness asks you to do something radical: to pause, to breathe, to listen not to the world, but to yourself. Seneca once wrote that to be everywhere is to be nowhere. He was speaking of the restless mind, the tendency to scatter our attention so widely that we lose the power of presence. The modern age, with its screens and speed, magnifies this condition 1,000-fold, but the cure remains the same: attention, intention, and stillness. Stillness is not passivity. It is an active awareness, the space between stimulus and response where wisdom lives. In that space, you can observe your thoughts like clouds drifting across a vast sky. You begin to see that you are not your anger, not your fear, not even your desire. You are the watcher behind them, calm, constant, aware. In the language of Stoic philosophy, this awareness is the beginning of freedom. Epictetus, who lived as a slave before becoming one of history's greatest teachers, knew that while no one could control his body, his mind was always his own. From that understanding came unshakable peace, a peace untouched by circumstance, born entirely from within. To find inner stillness is not to deny emotion, but to guide it, The Stoics never asked us to suppress what we feel. Rather, they urged us to understand it. Anger, fear, and desire are natural, but when observed through the lens of reason and calm, they lose their power to dominate us. We begin to act with clarity instead of impulse, to choose rather than react. Stillness transforms how we perceive time. In the modern world, time feels like an enemy, slipping away, rushing past. But in moments of quiet awareness, we begin to see that time is not something to chase. It is something to inhabit. To live fully in this breath, this thought, this moment is to live beyond the grasp of fear. And so stillness becomes both a shield and a mirror. A shield, because it guards us from being swept away by chaos. A mirror, because in it we see ourselves, stripped of distractions, titles, and noise. What remains is the essence of being, the quiet observer, the steady mind, the soul that endures. This is why Stoicism continues to speak to our restless hearts. It reminds us that peace was never lost. It was merely buried beneath the noise. The practice of stillness digs it back up, revealing that calmness is not something we must earn, but something we already possess when we stop running. The ancient Stoics lived in times of political turmoil, exile, and uncertainty, yet they found serenity. We too live in an age of distraction, outrage, and noise, yet the same path lies open to us. The tools have not changed: silence, reflection, and the courage to face ourselves. So as we step deeper into this journey, ask yourself, what does stillness mean to you? Is it a place, a practice, or a state of mind? Can you sit quietly for a few moments and meet yourself there, without the need to fix, to scroll, to flee? Because perhaps stillness is not a luxury, but a necessity. It is the forgotten art of returning home, to your breath, your awareness, your unshaken center. It is the foundation upon which all wisdom rests, and in rediscovering it, you rediscover what it truly means to live. From here, we turn to the roots of this wisdom, to the world of the ancients who first mapped the landscape of the mind. For to understand stillness, we must understand where it was born and how it survived the centuries to reach us today. To understand stillness, the kind that endures even in the face of chaos, we must return to its origins. Long before our modern search for mindfulness and peace, the ancient Stoics were already grappling with the same storms of existence. Their world, though separated from ours by millennia, was not so different, filled with conflict, uncertainty, ambition, and loss. The roots of Stoicism stretch back to ancient Greece around the 3rd century BCE, when a man named Zeno of Citium began teaching philosophy in the painted porch of Athens, the Stoa Poikile, from which the school took its name. Zeno had known personal tragedy. Shipwrecked and penniless, he found himself in a foreign city with nothing. Yet out of that loss, he discovered something far greater: the idea that a person's true wealth lies not in possessions or status, but in character, reason, and virtue. From its very beginning, Stoicism was not a philosophy of comfort, but of courage. It was born in uncertainty and shaped by adversity. The early Stoics lived in a world of wars and empires, where fate was unpredictable and power fleeting. They realized that the only constant, the only thing within one's control, was the mind itself. For them, Stoicism was not a theory, it was survival. It was a compass to navigate life's storms, and not a way to control the wind, but a way to steer the ship with wisdom. When Epictetus, centuries later, taught his students in Rome, he spoke from a place of lived experience. Born a slave, crippled in body but unbroken in spirit, he learned the deepest truth of Stoicism, that freedom begins in the mind. No man, he said, is free who is not master of himself. His lessons were not about detachment from life, but about engagement with it. With clarity, reason, and acceptance, he taught that no external force, no master, no loss, no injustice, could imprison a mind that chose to remain free. Epictetus's words were forged in hardship, but they became a source of light for generations. His teachings would later influence Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king who ruled one of the greatest empires in history. Amid wars, betrayals, and plague, Marcus wrote privately to himself, not for glory, but for grounding. You have power over your mind, he reminded himself, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. These writings, known today as meditations, were a quiet dialogue between a ruler and his soul. Despite commanding armies, Marcus fought his greatest battles within, against anger, fear, and despair. His practice of stillness was not luxury, but necessity. Through reflection, he kept his humanity intact amid the weight of empire. What makes Stoicism profound is not its ancientness, but its universality. Across time and culture, others have echoed its essence. Lao Tzu in the Tao Te Ching spoke of the power of yielding over force, that still waters run deep, and that the wise act without struggle. The Buddha, sitting under the Bodhi tree, found liberation not by changing the world, but by understanding the mind. And even Nietzsche, centuries later, would write of amor fati, the love of one's fate, a distinctly Stoic idea. To embrace life as it is, not as we wish it to be. Though their languages and traditions differ, the message remains the same. Peace is not found in mastering the world, but in mastering perception. Stillness is the meeting point of all these philosophies, the place where reason, awareness, and acceptance converge. In the Stoic worldview, the universe itself was seen as rational, guided by logos, an underlying order or divine intelligence. To live well meant to live in harmony with this order, aligning one's actions with reason and virtue. Every event, joyful or tragic, was seen as part of a larger design, and our task was not to resist it, but to respond wisely. This is where Stoicism diverges sharply from fatalism. It does not teach us to surrender passively, but to participate actively, to focus our energy only on what we can control, our thoughts, judgments, and actions. Everything else, reputation, fortune, even the opinions of others, belongs to fate, and therefore should not disturb our peace. In a way, Stoicism is a philosophy of radical responsibility. It asks us to take ownership of our inner life, to stop blaming circumstance for our suffering and instead, to cultivate the strength of perception. It's not things that upset us, Epictetus said, but our judgments about things. Change your perception and you change your world. This truth, simple yet profound, has shaped countless thinkers through time, from Ralph Waldo Emerson's Transcendentalism to Viktor Frankl's search for meaning in the face of the Holocaust. The Stoic seed has grown in many directions. Frankl's insight, that even in suffering we retain the freedom to choose our attitude, is pure Stoicism reborn in modern psychology. What the Stoics gave humanity is not a set of rules, but a way of seeing. They offered a mirror for the mind, one that reflects not how the world is, but how we interpret it. When we stand before this mirror with honesty, we begin to see that turmoil often arises not from what happens, but from our resistance to it. Their wisdom endures because it speaks to a universal human condition, the desire for peace amid chaos, clarity amid confusion, and strength amid suffering. Every age faces its storms. The Stoics simply gave us a timeless way to sail through them. Stoicism isn't about denying emotion, but transforming it. Anger into understanding, fear into focus, pain into purpose. This timeless alchemy turns life's chaos into wisdom. Amid today's noise and division, its roots remind us, storms exist outside, calm within. From Athens' painted porch to modern mindfulness, the search remains the same. Stillness isn't new to learn, but old to remember. True wisdom begins not in thought, but in living it every day with awareness and quiet strength. Stoic wisdom means little unless it is lived. True philosophy, as the ancients taught, is not found in eloquent words or clever debates, but in the quiet discipline of daily life. The Stoics believed that wisdom is a form of action. To know the right thing and not to do it is to remain asleep. To live with awareness, integrity, and calm, that is the work of philosophy in motion. From here, we turn from the realm of thought to the rhythm of practice. For what good is understanding peace if we cannot carry it into the noise of the world? The power of Stoic philosophy lies in its simplicity, not as abstract theory, but as a set of principles we can return to every day. especially when life feels unstable. At its heart, Stoicism invites us to focus only on what is within our control, our thoughts, our choices, and our actions, and to release the rest. It sounds simple, but it is a discipline forged in every moment we resist anger, fear, or distraction. Stillness, then, is not a single act but a daily training of the mind. Now imagine a morning before the rush begins, before screens glow, before voices rise. You sit quietly, breathing slowly, not to escape the world, but to meet it with strength. In that small pause, you create space. Space to see your thoughts clearly, to choose your direction before the day chooses it for you. This is where the practice begins. At work, Stoicism reminds us to act with focus, not fear. Results may lie beyond control, but effort and intention remain ours. We cannot govern outcomes or opinions, only the quality of our presence. Marcus Aurelius found calm amid empire and war. We too can find it within the noise of deadlines, decisions, and daily demands. Work becomes a form of meditation when approached with purpose. Each task, no matter how small, becomes an opportunity to practice excellence, to write, build, teach, or serve with integrity. That is the Stoic way. Let results follow effort, not anxiety. Let the work speak through steadiness. In relationships, Stoicism reminds us to listen before reacting. Every argument, every moment of misunderstanding is a test of perception. Epictetus said that we are not disturbed by events but by our judgments about them. When someone speaks harshly, we can pause and see beyond the noise of emotion. What pain or fear might lie beneath their words? Compassion begins where reaction ends. The Stoic does not suppress emotion, but seeks to understand it, to direct anger into patience, pride into humility, and attachment into appreciation. Love, in this sense, becomes freer, not bound by control or fear of loss, but grounded in respect for the shared impermanence of life. To love with awareness is to accept that every connection, no matter how dear, is a gift borrowed from time. In solitude lies the quiet forge of self-awareness, a sacred space where reflection shapes the soul. For the Stoics, solitude was not withdrawal but renewal, the place where thought meets truth. Journaling served as their compass, guiding action toward virtue through honest self-examination. Marcus Aurelius ended each day in reflection, turning his experiences into lessons rather than regrets. To follow this practice, begin with small steps. Spend 5 minutes each morning in mindful stillness, away from distractions and noise. Breathe deeply, watch your thoughts without resistance, and allow them to pass like drifting clouds. When the mind settles, write one simple intention for the day, not to achieve more, but to be more present. Over time, these moments of stillness nurture calm, clarity, and quiet strength within. Over time, these 5 minutes become a sanctuary, a space you carry within, even when the world grows chaotic. Stillness becomes strength, and that strength becomes peace. This practice is not about perfection, it is about returning. Each time you notice yourself lost in frustration or distraction, and gently return to awareness, you are living Stoicism. You are strengthening the muscle of the mind. The ancients called this ascesis, the discipline of the soul. It is not unlike physical training, but for character. In modern life, distractions are endless. Notifications, headlines, and comparisons pull us in every direction. But Stoic mindfulness asks something radical: to slow down, to breathe, to notice. Each moment of awareness reclaims your attention from the noise. Each pause is a small act of rebellion against chaos. Consider how this plays out in the ordinary moments of your day. When the train is late, instead of frustration, you practice patience. When a colleague interrupts, you practice humility. When plans fail, you practice acceptance. Each situation becomes a field of training, a chance to turn philosophy into muscle, thought into action. In doing so, Stoicism merges seamlessly with the art of mindfulness. Both teach the same truth, that the quality of our lives depends on the quality of our attention. Where the mind rests, the soul follows. Some may think this stillness makes life dull, but the opposite is true. When we live mindfully, colors appear brighter, conversations deepen, and time itself slows down. Presence opens the doorway to appreciation, for the sound of rain, the warmth of sunlight, the simple rhythm of breathing. What once felt ordinary becomes sacred. Over time, the Stoic path reshapes how you live. You no longer chase peace, you carry it. Control gives way to surrender, not from weakness but from wisdom. Each moment is met fully, then released with grace. True philosophy isn't spoken, it's lived. A calm mind, an open heart, a steady will. Not luck, but practice. Stillness isn't escape, it's engagement without being consumed. Every breath reminds you that peace is here, quietly waiting. As Ryan Holiday wrote, stillness is the key, but only if turned daily with patience and care. From here we journey toward mastering the self, a quiet act of courage in a world that never stops moving. From Marcus Aurelius to modern thinkers like Ryan Holiday and Donald Robertson, the message endures through centuries. True power is not found in domination, wealth, or control. It is found in self-mastery. In an age where the loudest voice often overshadows the calmest truth, the practice of stillness becomes an act of quiet rebellion. It is courage in its most unassuming form, the courage to remain centered when the world spins faster each day. Now imagine walking through a crowded city street, horns blaring, screens flashing, people moving as if time itself were chasing them. The noise is not just around you, it is within you. Notifications buzz, expectations pile up, thoughts compete for attention. Yet beneath that constant hum lies a silence that waits to be remembered, a silence that belongs to you. In a noisy world, stillness is not withdrawal. It is resistance to being pulled apart. It is choosing to be deliberate where others rush, mindful where others react, and present where others escape. The Stoic does not seek isolation from society. They cultivate clarity within it. Amid chaos, they remain whole. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations during wars and political storms. He reminded himself that you have power over your mind, not outside events. He understood that leadership, like living, begins with self-command. Without mastery of one's emotions, no amount of authority brings peace. That truth has not changed. Today, the battlefield is digital, and the empire we must govern is our own attention. We scroll endlessly, seeking stimulation, validation, escape. We compare our lives to filtered fragments of others and wonder why we feel incomplete. The Stoics might call this a form of voluntary enslavement, being ruled by what lies outside our control. But every moment we pause, every breath we take before reacting, we reclaim our freedom. Ask yourself gently and truthfully, who do I wish to become, beyond expectations, beyond applause? Not what the world demands, but who remains when the noise dissolves. In every moment of stillness, the answer grows clearer. A quiet unfolding of your truest self, revealed not through striving, but through awareness. Self-mastery is not suppression, it is awareness. To know your emotions, to recognize your impulses, and to choose your response, that is strength. Seneca once compared the mind to a calm sea, disturbed by winds, yet capable of great depth when still. To master the self is to learn the language of those inner waves. You do not fight them. You let them settle until reflection appears. In practice, this mastery grows from the smallest moments. When anger rises, breathe. When anxiety tightens the chest, pause before you act. When envy whispers, remember that no one else's path can replace your own. The Stoic art of self-control is not a denial of emotion, but a transformation of it. Energy redirected toward understanding, compassion, and purpose. Think of stillness as a muscle that strengthens through use. The more you train it, the more it supports you, through stress, uncertainty, and loss. Over time, this inner stability becomes visible in how you walk, speak, and decide. People may not know why you feel different, but they will sense it, that unspoken calm that neither praise nor criticism can shake. In modern psychology, this is mirrored by the concept of emotional regulation, the ability to hold space for feeling without being consumed by it. The Stoics understood this long before science named it. They knew that peace is not the absence of thought or pain, but the art of observing them without losing oneself. When you learn to master yourself, the world no longer dictates your rhythm. You respond instead of react. You act with intention instead of impulse. Each choice, however small, becomes an act of freedom. This is the essence of Stoic mindfulness, not to detach from life, but to live it with eyes fully open. And yet self-mastery is not a destination. It is a daily returning. Some days you will falter. You will get lost in the noise again. But the Stoic path is patient. You begin again each morning, breathing, observing, remembering that stillness is always one breath away. The ancients called this practice prohairesis, the power of choosing your attitude in any circumstance. It is what separates chaos from clarity. Every distraction becomes an invitation to return home to yourself. The constant scrolling, the striving for success, the hunger for validation, all are signals guiding you back to awareness. You are not your thoughts or your desires. You are the quiet presence behind them, the observer untouched by the noise, steady amid the storm. Imagine how life would feel if you carried that awareness into every moment, into a conversation, a disappointment, a quiet walk at sunset. The noise would still exist, but it would no longer own you. You would move through it like a steady flame in the wind, bending, never breaking. From this space of calm, compassion naturally arises. When you understand your own mind's turbulence, you judge others less harshly. You begin to see that everyone is fighting their own noise, their own storms of fear, doubt, and longing. Self-mastery leads not to isolation, but to connection. Because only when you are at peace within yourself can you truly bring peace to others. The Stoics were not distant dreamers, but emperors, soldiers, teachers, and slaves, fully alive in the world yet anchored within. Their strength was not withdrawal, but steadiness, holding to virtue while the world wavered. In that constancy, they discovered peace. Today, amid endless noise and distraction, stillness becomes an act of quiet rebellion. To pause, to breathe, to choose presence over performance. When life feels overwhelming, remember, the obstacle is the way. Each difficulty invites calm, discipline, and self-mastery. The world's clamor will never cease, but within you lies an untouched space, a still, aware, unshakable core. Guard it carefully and return often, for in that silent strength you meet true freedom. True peace is not found in outer silence, but in the quiet within. Through daily stillness and mindful awareness, we return to our natural state, calm, centered, and free. The world may stay chaotic, yet inside, there is a place untouched by noise or fear. In that inner stillness, clarity awakens, and from that clarity, true strength begins to grow. If these words spoke to you, pause for a moment. Breathe deeply and carry this calm into your day. Let it shape your tone, steady your steps, and remind you that peace is always within. Like, share, and subscribe to Stoic Dhamma for more reflections where ancient wisdom meets the modern soul, guiding you toward quiet strength and clarity. In our next episode, we'll explore how to face mortality with calm and inner strength. Together, we'll discover how embracing the reality of death can awaken a deeper appreciation for life, bringing clarity, courage, and a quiet strength that helps us live more fully and fear a little less.